Welcome to episode 9 of New Jersey Living, the podcast. So this is a episode that I'm very much looking forward to because my broker, Michael Pennisi, will be with us. He's broker and regional vice president at Coldwell Banker, and we are going to dive into some insights, kind of a little bit of a year in review to some extent, but also what we are looking forward to given the current market conditions as we enter the new year in 2024. So stay tuned, sit back and relax, and let's dive into this now. Welcome to New Jersey Living, the podcast, where we explore all things New Jersey real estate. I'm your host, Corey Jones, a real estate agent with Coldwell Banker and team leader of the New Jersey Living Group. We're a team of experienced agents who specialize in residential sales in several counties ranging from Bergen County in northern New Jersey to Ocean County down the shore. On this podcast, we will talk to real estate experts, local business owners, community leaders, and town officials to get the inside scoop on various towns in New Jersey. We'll discuss everything from the latest market trends to featured local attractions with dining, recreation, and entertainment. Whether you're a current resident, a prospective buyer, or just curious about New Jersey real estate, we have something for you. So sit back, relax, and join us for a conversation about all things New Jersey living. All right, so welcome. We have, like I mentioned in my intro, we have Michael Pennisi. Michael is my broker. I just call him broker, but he has other titles as well. Regional Vice President of Coldwell Banker. So I'm going to give Michael an opportunity just to give a quick intro and a little insight on your experience at Coldwell Banker.
So first of all, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure, you know that, and I really do enjoy working with you. In terms of Coldwell Banker, it's been a blessing for me. Absolutely love my time there. I've been with the company I've been in real estate for almost 20 years, been at Coldwell Banker for the majority of that time. And, I just think that it's just been an incredible place in terms of the people, the leadership. I like the way we do business. We do things ethically. I do believe that it's cliche at times, but I really do believe we are fairly cutting edge. Compared to most in the industry, we're the first to do many different things. And, I think ultimately what it really comes down to is serving the clients and the agents, because without the clients and, without the agents who are out there, servicing those clients, there is no business.
Absolutely. And I'm going to touch on a piece that you, even though we didn't script this out at all, which is cool, but the piece about servicing agents and clients, right? So one of the reasons that I was drawn to Coldwell Banker is just the model in terms of the platforms that's provided for an agent. And just speak to that a little bit just in terms of Coldwell's intention and their vision of how they're really structured to help agents succeed in whatever their business model may be.
Yeah, so there's really a handful of ways to approach this question. We could certainly go the tech route, which I'll touch upon. I think before you even get to technology, it's about service. And what service looks like to me is having boots on the ground, people that are there to help you, where you don't have to call into some hotline, or if you don't have to go online to find some avatar to teach you the business, you could pick up the phone. We could have a conversation like we're having right now, and do some coaching or do some business planning or do whatever it takes to make sure that we're getting the job done properly. So that structure, having the resources to do that, meaning the team behind me, I believe that that's paramount. I know I couldn't do my job as effectively as I'd like to if I didn't have the staff that I have, if I didn't have the people that I'm able to delegate to do certain topics and certain, elements of the business, because it's really difficult to just be all things for all people. And, I feel like Coldwell Banker has definitely supported me in that. And supports our agents. On the tech front, it actually is. It's almost the opposite of what most of the industry is doing. So a lot of real estate brokerages, they want to really own the technology and they want to be the tech company, so to speak. Coldwell Banker's taken a different approach, and I would liken it to the difference between what we all had BlackBerries at one point in time. I know I did. I'm sure you probably did as well. And nobody has a BlackBerry. They don't even exist any longer. And so why did that happen? I think one of the major reasons that happened is because, companies like Apple and, and certainly like Android and, Google, they decided that, you know what, we're not going to compete against the world. We're going to have an app store, and people are going to be able to create products in that app store. And ultimately, we're going to have the minds of all of these brilliant people from around the world that will create these products, and we will host them. Whereas, BlackBerry took the opposite approach, and BlackBerry's approach was, we are going to be the technology. We're going to create all of the apps. Taking the us against the world approach is not a good one. It's tough. There's too many brilliant minds. Technology moves too fast. Yeah. So what Coldwell Banker has done a really nice job with, in my opinion, is trying to create an ecosystem where we could link with our systems to anything that's third party. And I feel like that's the direction that not only, it's not even a feeling, it's the direction we are going, but I also, feel that it's the direction that we should be going. So I'm excited to work with a company that, is open-minded in the way that they approach the business. And I guess the last piece that I'm going to add to this is it's always about the agents and the clients. And I started with that before, but if you think about it from, you extrapolate that to what does that mean like in actual like practice? It means that you could be the agent that you want to be. You could have the logos that you want, the color schemes that you want to all the collateral that you put out. You could create the business that you want because you're an independent contractor. And Coldwell Banker doesn't interject themselves in any of that. If anything, they're supportive, and their goal is to try to make sure that your brand is the one that people remember.
Right. And I'm sitting, as you're saying this, I'm thinking too, if you are a prospective buyer or seller that watch my content, you're watching this right now, why this is relevant to you is the resources and the training and the business model that your agent has certainly is a reflection of the service that you're going to receive from that agent, right? So Coldwell, in my opinion, because I've been with a couple of brokerages and I've came to Coldwell this year and been very pleased with what I've seen, is it's set up to help agents succeed. And what we want to do as agents is to provide the most exceptional level of service that we can for every client, right?
Can I touch upon that, actually? Because you hit upon something that's like really, of the utmost importance. Is we do serve clients, and the clients that we serve, I have this, I'm in a position where I recruit a lot of agents from different brokerages, and I have conversations about people potentially leaving to go to other brokerages because there's always angles, like whether it's, financial elements or what have you. And what I find that is universally true is I have never once sat down with an agent at another brokerage that does a better job of marketing and exposing listings to the general public than we do within, the walls of Coldwell Banker. And so people will make moves for different reasons in business, but not once have I ever seen somebody go somewhere else in an effort to better serve their clients. And that to me tells the whole story. Because if I could look a client in the face and I could say there is nobody out there that will provide better service than we will, then I could sleep at night.
Absolutely. And you can go by the numbers. If I have an opportunity, I'm just going to flash a couple up here now just to give those who are watching on YouTube an idea of how Coldwell is performing in multiple counties in northern and central New Jersey. You'll get an idea of, the numbers tell the story, right?
So, the results don't lie.
Yes. No question about it. Yeah. So we're going to dive into a little bit about the conversation about the market. So we're closing out. We're at the very end. We're recording. We're mid-December right now, and we're about to close out the year. And what a year it's been from where we started, what the market was then the interest rate hikes that have happened throughout the year to where we are right now, where now it seems like we have peaked. I mean, we still have a road to travel ahead of us, but we are looking at a market that could be opening up once again as we enter the new year. So I just want to kind of lean into you, Mike, a little bit right now with some of your insights, which are always very valuable, as to where we are right now looking as we enter this new year.
So I'll start with this. Supply and demand for any market is pivotal. And if you have, tremendous amount of supply and you don't have proper demand to eat up all that supply, prices will go down. if the reverse is also true, if you have, a tremendous amount of demand and you don't have the supply to, to keep up with that demand, prices will continue to rise. The last I checked, prices in New Jersey were up 10% year over year. And it's interesting because you'll see like world news, and you'll see all these different coverages, a U.S. news, that they'll put out there that the real estate market's down. Like, it's actually misleading, because it's what are we talking about in terms of the real estate market being down? What's down are the amount of units, the amount of homes that have actually traded.
Right.
And the reason that those numbers are down has very little to do with demand. Like, most people think that when they hear like there's less people buying homes right now, it's because, well, there's not enough buyers out there. Well, that's actually like completely false.
Absolutely.
Like, we are having, from a buyer perspective, if you think about it, like generationally, people buy at certain points in their life. They buy when they get married. They buy when they get divorced in certain instances. They buy when they have children. They buy when they get promotions. Like, there's, that's the reasons why people tend to buy. And there's several other reasons, like relocation, stuff like that. But life reasons. So that doesn't change.
Right.
But what has changed are the amount of people in specific populations. So if you look generationally, we had the baby boomers were the largest generation of people in the United States history.
Right.
And then you had generation X and Y, and then millennials, and the two generations between baby boomers and millennials were smaller populations of people. Millennials are the largest population of people, and millennials are in their home buying prime right now. When I define that as, is like, think of like between the ages of 28 and 40. Like, that's where those people right now, it's even a little bit older now because that's, probably a year removed. But the truth is like, those people, that's the largest population of people in our country right now. So there's not a shortage of demand. Like, that's not the problem. The problem with today's market is there's not enough inventory.
Yes.
Inventory has been the story of 2023, and the lack of inventory. And so let me just dive into that a little bit. Like, why is that? Well, whenever you see rates that go from like call it between 2 and 3% up to 8%, you see this spike, one of the highest spikes, certainly in the last 25 years, but like even
probably
in history,
historically, yeah,
it's a historic, high in terms of a spike. When you see that happen, most people think about the impact that it has on a buyer. They say like, okay, like the price of a home, the monthly payment that I'm going to have to pay is significantly higher than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, what have you. And there's truth to that, but that's not what's creating the issue. What's creating the issue is actually the seller side. Because you have sellers, the majority of sellers, 90+% of sellers in the marketplace either own their house outright, so they don't have a mortgage, or they have an interest rate that was locked in during a time that it was between 2 and 3%.
Right.
So if you are a seller and you own $1 million home, and your interest rate is, let's call it 3%, like, now let's just say that for life reasons you're retiring. Like, so that would typically say like, okay, this $1 million home is now going to come to market. Well, in today's world, that $1 million seller is saying, well, why would I buy down right now? Because if I buy a $500,000 house and interest rates are 8%, well, the monthly payment is not changing. It's, I'm going to be paying the exact same amount. I might as well keep the $1 million home and live comfortably.
Right.
And so we've had such a shortage of inventory because of the rate spike. And quite frankly, like, that's been perpetuated by the high demand, because we have this crazy high demand. So anything that does come to market naturally sells at, a premium.
Yes.
There's not enough homes on the market, and it's a perpetuating cycle. Like, you kind of have, more demand, less inventory that is stuck because of rates. And until rates come down, you still have that issue. Now, here's the kicker. Like, when rates do come down, what happens? Now you have more sellers that are coming to market, which you would think, like, inherently more sellers, more supply, prices would then like even out. That's not accurate, because you have such a high amount of demand that's been sitting on the sidelines due to the lack of inventory that there's pent up demand at this point. I think that what you're going to see right today, this is breaking news, but right today we saw rates plummet. Rates were, in the mid 7s. They dropped into the 6s. I think it was like 6.81.
That's tremendous for where we are right now.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So when you see that happen, naturally it's going to speed the market up. Like there's no question about it. It will speed the market up. There'll be more people that are trying to buy. What that's going to create are 30, 40, 50 offers on properties. So if you're a seller that's considering selling and you're, think about timing in the marketplace. The early spring market is January.
Right.
So if you're a seller that's thinking about selling and, you're considering about how to time it, why wouldn't you time it in the early spring market when there's always, it doesn't matter, there's always a tidal wave of buyers that come into the market. Like couple that with rates that plummeted, like you're going to get paid. Like this is the time to do it.
Yes.
If you're a buyer, like this is the reverse. If you're a buyer, that's not a great situation for you. I'm not going to tell you that it is. However, this is like you could play both sides of this because it depends on how you look at it. Rates are, I think most people, entities, organizations, whatever you want to call it, are predicting rates are going to continue to fall, in the coming year. It's not going to get better. Like if anything, if rates continue to fall, your buying power will increase, which is a great thing, but the competition's also going to go up. And so it's not a time where I would necessarily sit on the sidelines if I was a buyer or a seller. If you're a cash buyer, it's a little bit of a different conversation.
Yes,
but if you're a cash buyer, you can make the argument that now is a better time to buy than a year from now. I don't have a crystal ball just like you don't, but it seems pretty safe to say that we're going to see rates come down from where they are right now. And for that reason, it's going to speed the market up and it's going to create, considerably more competition.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And I read, this is just a recent article before you and I had this conversation just before we started recording about where the rates fell today. But the Fed talking about they have just kind of penciled in potential, if not 2, it was 3 potential drops, right? Looking for we forecast into the new year. And I just know on my business side, on the buy side, my buy side clients have been in an environment that is rarely been seen over the past couple of years, over the past month, I would say, where there's not a lot of inventory, but that inventory that is available, they have not been engaging the same level of competition, right? Because we're in a slow season too. I mean, once we hit Thanksgiving, things kind of slow down, right? Inventory is not great. Rates have been a little bit high. So it's been a much more even playing field for those buyers that are still engaged. And once I started seeing these news reports, I know that's about to change really quickly, right?
It will change very quickly.
So the days of, as you mentioned, 30, 40, I can remember distinctly being in a 52 offer, right, scenario where my clients came in 23rd and we were at least in that particular scenario about maybe 12% above ask, right? So I can see us getting back to that kind of place really quickly because some people are looking to once again engage. And then once we see more inventory, because that's the other challenge we see right now is that on the market, again, if you're on the buy side, the inventory that's out there that's kind of that move-in ready, a really well-maintained home or something that has been really well renovated, there's so few of them, right? Even amongst that low inventory.
Turnkey people want.
Absolutely.
No question about it.
Right. So those is just hands down. People are going to be all over very quickly. So it's just from a buy-side standpoint, there is some challenge ahead. I would say for clients I'm dealing with on the buy side, some of the things that I always encourage is just getting something pre-underwritten if they can. I mean, that's one thing just to show themselves to be very competitive. And on the seller side, I've got a couple folks that I'm talking to right now, and they are contemplating just that, as you said, time frame. Do I wait until March? Or do I go ahead and take a swing early? And I think there's nothing hurting you to go in January. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I used to actually position when I was in sales full time, my average sales price was $1.1 million.
Okay.
So for me, I was dealing with a luxury, clientele, and I always would position my sellers that were getting ready this time of year for the spring market to think January. And the reason that I would do that is because that's when Wall Street would get bonused. So you would actually be in a position where you were on the market with less inventory, because the inventory always rises, like, April, May, those months.
Right.
Naturally, there's more competition at that point. So the higher the supply, it dilutes you a little bit. I actually prefer to be on in the early spring market. I think that there's no question. And I want to touch upon one thing, and it really is kudos to you as an agent. And I think that it's important for your viewers to hear, because to me, like, one of the reasons that you engage with an agent who's doing this at a high level, who really does bring the value to the table, is the best thing that you could do is find somebody in off-market property.
Yes.
And, one of the things that we're able to do, because we have such a stranglehold on inventory throughout the state of New Jersey, is we're able to get our buyers in the door on listings that are potentially coming to market in the coming months, because our sellers say, hey, listen, like, I'm thinking about selling my home, 3 months from now. If you have somebody who's interested, bring them in.
Right.
So that's an opportunity that a buyer wouldn't have otherwise. And I know you do a fantastic job of matchmaking between your buyers and sellers, and it speaks to the value you provide to your clients. But I think it's a big deal. I mean, because I know any buyer that, if I were listening to this and I was in the position to be buying, I would be like, oh, there's a tidal wave coming of of competition. Like, what am I going to do to circumvent that? What am I going to do to put myself in a better position? And the answer is you align yourself with somebody who's going to put you in a better position.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
It really is it's a partnership there.
And here's a question I haven't even asked you before, but as you're speaking about off market,
throw me on the spot. No, that's cool.
We have CB exclusive, right? So
Correct.
we have basically, for those who are not familiar, CB exclusive is basically office exclusive listings within Coldwell Banker, right? And I have not been, of every brokerage I've been a part of up until being at CB, I've not been in an environment where it has been that extensive of an inventory. So I don't know if you have a number on that, like percentage wise, or how we stand with market. But what I do know is, just being a part of the CB community, there is just extensive inventory that is office exclusive, that if you're not a buyer tied into a CB agent, right, you just wouldn't have exposure to. So I just, if you can give me some insight, how do we measure up there?
It's hard to give you like actual statistics on all of this, because we are the largest brokerage in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
So naturally we cover different areas all over the state, and to like identify like what market share we have in all those markets wouldn't be really fair to your viewers.
Yeah.
I think that the better way of explaining this is, we have 5,000 plus agents in the state. We do, depending on the marketplace, most markets we're at like 30% market share. And I could speak for, I run an operation of several different offices, train line offices in the state. And, we do $1 billion worth of business every year. So it's, it's a pretty significant, considerable chunk of business. I think for that, to that end, I could say that I look from a macro approach, and on a macro level, we sell a lot of our inventory before it ever hits Zillow, before it ever hits, the MLS. And I think that like sometimes when you think about exclusives, it has this negative connotation. And I'm going to speak to that, because I think it's important to try to like dispel the myths. So some brokerages, and I'm not naming names, I'm not pointing fingers or anything like that, but some brokerages, the way that they use exclusive inventory is they call them pocket listings.
Right.
And it's like, hey, I'm going to take this listing. Hey, Mr. Seller, like, list with me. I'm not going to tell you this, but I'm not going to do what's in your best interest. I'm not going to put it out to the markets and try to push this. What I'm going to do is, try to sell it myself, so I could make commissions for the buy side and for the sell side. Right. So that is not our agenda. Like, in any way, shape, or form, that's not our agenda. What we're doing is we have such a large amount of market share and so many agents that we actually represent, in many markets, we're 30, 40, 50% of the marketplace. So by exclusively pushing it out to our buyers first, the seller is actually getting better information than if they were to go to market first, because they're getting like a sample size that's, call it 30% of a marketplace that's seeing their price. They could price it, if they want to test the price out, they could test it at a higher price, see what happens if they get it, don't get it, and it doesn't have any negative connotation to them, because the reality is like they don't have days on market adding up. They're not they're not like a piece of stale inventory that's out there when other homes are selling in the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
So that's one advantage. The other thing that I would say is there are sellers that just have specific situations that call for exclusives. Like, let's just say, for instance, their house is a mess. Like that's an easy example. And it's going to take junk removal crews, and it's going to take like a lot of work to get their house to shine like you were talking about before. Maybe they don't want to do all of that. Well, you don't want to put a house that's like clearly in need of some love on all the sites and have all the pictures that are, professional photography and all that stuff. It doesn't necessarily show well.
Right.
So rather than them going through all the efforts and all the work to get to that point, they could potentially sell it, internally. And the conversation with the buyer is pretty simple. Like, we haven't gotten this house ready for market yet. So you got to look beyond that stuff. But here's what we're going to do. And you could take your chances with it coming out later when it's all shined up, or you could buy it for this price, which is clearly being defined by the seller, because they're saying this is what I want to sell my house for. I think that there's some interesting advantages in terms of just convenience that brings to a seller. Another thing is timing. We talked about those people that are looking to sell their house, let's just say in April or May.
Right.
Well, maybe, between now and then, they would be happy to accept an offer and not have to deal with the inconvenience of sweeping themselves out of their home. The point is there's advantages and disadvantages to both. What we do a really nice job of is really articulating those advantages and disadvantages to the seller and to the buyer, so they understand what they're getting involved in and they can make smart decisions for their situation.
Right.
And so there's no secrecy about this. It's something that we do, and we do have an internal system to allow for it. So when you, as an agent in our Maplewood office, go out and push this out to all of Coldwell Banker, it's not just you with your own pocket listing that's trying to get a buyer.
Right.
It's you pushing it out to 5,000 plus agents across the state of New Jersey, and it's like a megaphone. So I think that that's one thing that separates us from the competition, and I think we do a really nice job with it to give our clients advantages.
Absolutely. And as I said before, far more of a extensive system than I've ever encountered in other brokerages I've been in. So I want to thank Mike again, because we're right up on time right now. What I'm going to try and do, Mike, is to see if we can do this quarterly, right? Just to get some updates.
I appreciate it.
Maybe get you locked in for our March time frame to see how Q1 has gone for the year. All right. So, and if you are finding this very insightful, please do click like, subscribe, and notification bell. And if you are a YouTube watcher, this is on YouTube as well. I'm going to just flash up really quick my YouTube channel. Those who are watching, you're already seeing it anyway, but do subscribe to my YouTube channel for that content as well. So thanks again. Stay safe. We're going to actually be airing this in the new year. So happy New Year to those who are listening. Stay safe and stay tuned to New Jersey Living.